She entered with elegance and a flawless smile, but minutes later, the polished calm cracked. By the end of the segment, millions would be debating who had truly lost control. The booking was billed as a simple morning chat, but what unfolded? Between Meghan Markle and Michael Strahan would become one of the most talked about moments in Good Morning America history. The studio buzzed with its usual pre-show rhythm makeup, brushes flashing, assistants murmuring into headsets, coffee scent drifting through the air. Michael Strahan, steady and unshakable, reviewed the rundown in the green room. He'd interviewed presidents and Oscar winners. But today's guest carried a different kind of electricity. Meghan Markle, former Duchess, actress, humanitarian. And Perpetual Headline was here to promote a wellness documentary. Officially, the conversation was about philanthropy. Unofficially, the producers knew it could go anywhere. Meghan arrived early, immaculate in an ivory pantsuit, equal parts royal formality and Hollywood polish. She greeted crew members warmly, complimented the flowers, even joked with a producer. But behind the poised smile, there was something else, something guarded. At 8:17 a.m., the red light above camera 3 blinked on. "Good morning, America," Michael said with his signature smile. "We have a very special guest today, Meghan Markle, here to talk about her latest work, her new documentary, and life beyond the spotlight. Meghan, welcome back." "Thank you, Michael," she replied smoothly, voice steady, practiced. The first minutes flowed easily. Wellness, motherhood, community. Safe ground. She spoke with polish, sprinkling in buzzwords like authenticity, healing, growth. Then Michael pivoted. "You've worn many hats: actress, activist, member of the royal family. When you look back at your acting career, do you think it prepared you for the public scrutiny that came later?" Her expression held for a beat before her eyes narrowed. "Slightly. I think it's reductive to focus on my acting when there's so much more to who I am now, Michael." "Of course," he said evenly. "But don't you think those earlier roles shaped how people perceive you today?" She let out a clipped laugh. "Perception is an interesting thing. People believe what they're told, especially by the media." In the control room, a producer muttered into her headset, "Uh-oh." Michael leaned in. "Fair point. But interviews like this give you a chance to speak directly." Her smile faltered. "Suppose if the questions are thoughtful." The silence between them was brief, but heavy. Michael moved on. "There's been speculation about your relationship with the press. Some say it played a part in your split from the royal family. Would you say that's fair?" Her composure shifted. She crossed her legs deliberately. "That's an oversimplification. I left because I wanted peace. Because I wanted my children to grow up without their mother being dissected on national television, and yet here I am." Michael's eyebrow lifted. "And yet, you've stayed very public: documentaries, podcasts, interviews like this. Some might say you stepped out of one spotlight only to create another." Her smirk was cool, almost icy. "Are you suggesting that speaking on my own terms is the same as being hounded by tabloids?" "Not at all," he replied evenly. "Just pointing out the transition wasn't exactly a retreat from attention." The camera pushed in. The tension itself had become part of the show. But unlike the tabloids, Meghan shot back. "I get to choose the narrative. Asterisk something you might not understand unless you've lived it." Michael didn't flinch. "I'd argue that. Having worked in both journalism and professional sports, I understand the pressure of public perception better than most." The moment hung between them, two professionals, locked in a silent contest for control. Michael shifted gears, his tone measured. "Let me ask you this. Did your departure from royal duties have anything to do with your past, your upbringing, your Hollywood career? Did any of that clash with the crown's expectations?" Meghan didn't blink. "If you're asking whether I was too American for the monarchy, the answer is yes. Okay, and I wear that like a badge of honor." A ripple of awkward chuckles passed. Through the audience, Michael smiled politely, though his eyes studied her closely. Has that cultural clash affected your relationship with Prince Harry, for example? Her tone turned cold. My marriage is not a topic for public entertainment, Michael. I came here to discuss serious work, not indulge tabloid fantasies. No disrespect meant, Michael said evenly. But people are curious. You and Harry have been icons of change, and part of that story is how you support each other through it. Icons, she repeated, amused but without warmth or targets. The studio quieted. Even the crew seemed frozen. Michael's voice stayed calm. I suppose it depends on who you ask. Some say you've reshaped public narratives. Others believe you've blurred the lines between privacy and publicity. And some, Meghan said flatly, just like to hear themselves talk. The control room jolted producers whispering, "Did she just say that?" Michael didn't move. I hope I'm asking questions our viewers care about. And I hope they care about things that matter, she shot back, folding her arms. Like mental health, education, and equity, not whether my marriage is tabloid-worthy. Michael's smile was taut. Then let's dig into that, if you're open to it. The battle lines were drawn civil, but unmistakable. The air in the Good Morning America studio had thickened. Michael's posture was still polished. But there was something colder in his eyes. Now not anger, not annoyance, but resolve. Meghan sat back, relaxed, almost smug, idly toying with the corner of a cue card, as if she owned the set. Meghan. Michael began, clearing his throat. Your transition from acting to royal life did Hollywood prepare you for Buckingham Palace? For a fraction of a second, she blinked, caught off guard. Then the smile returned, cooler this time. You mean, did playing a paralegal on Suits prepare me to sit next to the Queen? No, Michael, I wouldn't say it did. That's a rather silly comparison, don't you think? Not at all, he said. Plenty of people make career leaps, but there must have been parallels managing scrutiny, balancing personal expression with public duty. I think what you're really asking, she said, eyes narrowing, is if I was ever worthy of the role? No, Michael replied smoothly. I'm asking whether your past helped or hurt the transition and if you felt prepared. Meghan laughed once, sharp and joyless. Prepared for a family that saw me as a prop in their historical drama. Let's just say no script could have prepared me for that. Behind the cameras, the director mouthed, "Let it play." They knew what was brewing viral gold. Michael turned a page in his notes. Let's talk about the decision to step back from royal duties. There's speculation that tensions weren't only with the press, but inside the palace. Oh, here we go. Meghan murmured under her breath. Michael continued, unshaken. There were unconfirmed reports that some of those tensions involved your own behavior, that some felt you weren't interested in adapting to the institution. A sharp inhale from someone off camera. Meghan's gaze didn't waver. And? I suppose you're quoting those mysterious palace insiders, right? The ones who never show their faces but always have plenty to say. Michael said nothing. Silence was his move now. Meghan's voice dropped. Look, I know it's easy to paint me as the difficult one. People love that narrative. Especially when it's a woman, Meghan said evenly. Then she added, her gaze sharpening, especially a woman of color. But tell me something, Michael Wood. You ask these same questions if your guest were a man who'd married into the monarchy. Michael's face stayed motionless. I ask every guest the questions the public wants answered. That's my job. And yet, Meghan said, a condescending smile curling her lips. You keep circling back to the same implication that somehow I caused my own problems. Michael slowly flipped the next card in his hand. Is that not a possibility? The smirk vanished. Her tone iced over. I think we both know what kind of interview this is. You're not here to understand me. You're here to chip away at me. Politely, of course, with a smile. But a chisel is still a chisel. Michael nodded slightly. I respect your perspective. But one more question, just one. Her arms crossed. Go on. Your relationship with Prince Harry, he began, each word chosen like a surgeon's cut. Some tabloids have reported recent tensions, separate travel, public disagreements. Care to comment? Meghan laughed aloud, but without warmth. I'd prefer not to dignify tabloid trash, Michael. If your questions are going to be based on supermarket headlines, maybe you should be the one playing a paralegal. The jab landed. A few staffers behind the cameras winced. Michael blinked once, then smiled, not the warm TV smile, but something colder. Now you've shown them who you are. I ask because your audience, the people who rallied for you, are wondering if everything's okay. You don't have to answer, but insulting the question won't make it go away. Meghan shifted in her seat, a flicker of discomfort breaking her composure. Funny, she said quietly, how people pretend to be respectful while slipping. In subtle digs, you've got it down to an art form, Michael. And you, he replied just as calmly, have perfected the art of avoiding accountability. I am, she said, flatly. Silence. Even the director's hand hovered midair, frozen before the cut signal. Michael glanced at his notes. Let's talk about your production company. Documentaries or scripted content? Meghan didn't answer. She sat back, arms folded, eyes locked on him like a chess player seeing checkmate 5 moves ahead. Meghan, he prompted. She blinked once, the mask slipping. I think, she said slowly, we should wrap this up. Michael nodded. If that's your choice. But everyone in the studio felt that this wasn't over. The charm had cracked. The room had shifted. And now, Michael wasn't backing down. The air in the Good Morning America studio turned heavy. Meghan crossed her legs and angled her body slightly away from him, a subtle tell. The gloves were off. Michael let the cue cards rest in his lap. Before we close, there's one more thing. People have been buzzing about your recent comment, calling the monarchy a dusty institution built on outdated ideals. Meghan tilted her head. Is that really how you want to end this? Shoo? Said it, he replied without flinching. Do you still stand by it? I said what needed to be said, she answered coolly. Not everyone has the courage to speak out when something is wrong. And yet, Michael leaned in slightly. Some might argue you walked into an ancient system with your own expectations, got angry when it didn't bend to you. Her expression hardened. I walked in as a wife, a mother, a humanitarian, not as someone plotting a coup. But when I saw what it did to my husband, to my mental health, I chose peace. And the book deal? Michael asked, the docu-stories. The Spotify contract, were those about peace, too? Asterisk, the question everyone had been circling was finally out, dangling in the air like a live grenade. Meghan leaned back, her silence heavier than any reply. Look, she said at last, her polished composure cracking. I'm not here to justify my existence or my choices. I have a platform. I use it. Isn't that what people always preach? Use your voice. Absolutely, Michael replied evenly. But when that voice comes with millions and global exposure, it comes with scrutiny. You don't get to opt out. And who made you the authority on scrutiny? She snapped. I'm not lecturing, Michael said, folding his hands. I'm interviewing. Or I was. Behind the cameras, producers stayed frozen, no cut, no commercial. This was too good. Meghan's jaw tightened. You've been playing fair while dragging up every hit piece about me. I didn't write them, Michael said, but I read them just like your audience does. So now you're their mouthpiece. No, he said calmly. But I'm not yours either. The silence that followed felt volcanic. "You came in with your narrative ready," Meghan said, her voice rising. "You wanted the viral clip, the soundbite. You don't care about my work, you wanted a setup." Michael raised a brow. "And yet, you walked right into it." Her eyes flashed. "Because I thought you would be different." "Maybe," he said with a shrug. "You didn't do your homework." Meghan pulled her blazer tighter, as if bracing against the room itself. "I think we're done here." "One last thing," Michael said, holding a final card. "You once said the truth has no expiration date. Still believe that?" "Play your clip, Michael," she said coldly. He didn't. He just waited. She rose, heels clicking like a metronome, counting down her exit. The door clicked shut behind her. The room stayed still until the floor director murmured, "We're out in 3, 2, 1. Silence. Michael Strahan sat back, cool as ice. Meghan, moments earlier, had been leaning forward, visibly rattled. Her image fraying thread by thread. There's only so much anyone can take of this interrogation. She'd said, brushing a strand of hair away. "You're free to answer or not." "Meghan," Michael had replied. "But this is live television, and you agreed to be here." "Please," she'd laughed bitterly. "You invited me to promote my work, then spent 20 minutes digging for headlines about my past. I asked about your career, your choices, your public life," he said. "You're one of the most talked about women in the world. Ignoring what people are already asking would be a disservice." "No," she shot back. "It's a disservice pretending you're Barbara Walters." Gasps. Rippled in the control room. "I don't pretend to be anyone," Michael said. "I'm Michael Strahan. I earned my seat just like you earned yours." "Please," Meghan scoffed. "If I were still just the actress from Suits, you wouldn't have me here. You'd be talking to a quarterback." "You might be right," Michael said, "but I'd still treat them with respect." That one landed. She stood, slow and deliberate. "I don't have to stay for this kind of amateur journalism." "You're free to leave," Michael said. "But walking out doesn't?" "Erase the questions." "And staying," she said, "doesn't make them worth answering." The studio doors closed behind her, quiet, but heavy. Michael turned to the camera. "Live TV, folks. Sometimes you get inspiration. Sometimes confrontation. And sometimes someone walks out because they didn't like the questions." By noon, the clip was everywhere. So was Michael out of line, or was Meghan too defensive?